Sekeres Price from Wall Center. In today's Bodog poll question, we're asking you, will the Canucks buy out Oliver Ekman-Larsson this summer? Yes or no? You can vote at Sekeres Price on Twitter, Bodog, your source. Free casino games, poker strategy, and sports odds. Bodog line of the day for me. Valero, Texas Open this week. We're defending champion JJ Spawn goes off at 33-1, worth a punt on your Bodog line of the day. Here's PJ from the province and Post Media. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm great. It's beautiful outside. Spring's in the air. Can smell hockey playoffs.
Yes, you can smell
Somewhere.
hockey, but just
you've
not
got
here.
a good nose then if you can
Just
smell
not
hockey
here.
playoffs.
But you're so right, Patrick. Like, this time of year is so special. It's so exciting if your team is going to the playoffs, right? Because the weather is getting better. And, oh, by the way, you have this thing to look forward to in mid-April. Can't wait till we get back to those days. Alas, not this year.
Yeah, and in the end, that is exactly it. And that is, I mean, I've said this before, but the thing that's kind of driven me nuts is that, you go back to the Kuzmenko signing, and that should be good news. And yet, we're in this universe that has been created by ownership that is endlessly trying not to circle the drain, and yet that's all we end up doing is seeing as a team circle the drain. We would like to see the team. The fans, of course, want to see the playoffs. I mean, let's be clear. It gives us no pleasure and does us no good not seeing playoffs. It is better for us who cover the team to have a team win, to have the team in the playoffs, sustainably.
Well, it's just better for the community. Like, there's a crackle and an energy in town when the local NHL team is in the Stanley Cup playoffs that's just unmatched by anything else in recreational or cultural life. And it's been missing here for a decade. And there are people responsible for that, and they all reside over at Rogers Arena. Let's ask you what we were talking about yesterday then with Rick Tocchet, where 16-9-2 going in this game against St. Louis, which is a must lose, incidentally, in the Tankist draftists point of view. But Tocchet, if he had been there from the jump, is this a playoff team, Patrick?
I have pondered this over and over again, and I've also pondered the secondary question, which I'll come back to, which is related, and it's the hiring question. But I don't know, because so much of this is a personnel question. And, multiple people, Cam Sharon's pointed this out. I've written about it. A few other people have written about it. Like, it is hard to ignore how much better the team has been defensively in terms of moving the puck since OEL got hurt. And it's just been a tough season for him. He was not playing well. He knows he wasn't playing well. I'm not sure there is an alternative narrative with him this season. Alternative, dimension. Could you have this gone any differently for him? I think in the end, you're sort of, you have to look at that. I mean, it's not so much that, oh my goodness, the AHL guys were better. It's just that the guys that were here, just that wasn't their skill set. I mean, Luke Schenn was great, and Luke Schenn I thought was actually pretty decent moving the puck out. But Riley Stillman wasn't. There's three guys that aren't in the lineup that have been replaced by three guys who actually are not bad at it. I don't know. I mean, you're playing a soft schedule. It's the other thing is this is the soft end of the year. The thing you can't ignore is how well they've scored and how well Thatcher Demko's played since he returned. And that's the other question. Thatcher Demko was not good to start the year. So, I don't know if the coach makes any difference there on that one.
No. They stay away from the goalies. I don't think it's making a difference.
Well,
there were just too many things, I think, in the first half that at the end of the day, the real question to me is really, should they have just waited till the end of the year to hire Tocchet? That if he was your guy and you were sitting in the end, maybe they would have won these games with Boudreaux anyway. Maybe that didn't matter. I mean, a coach matters to a degree, but in the end, it's mostly about personnel and letting the players play.
Hey, the tank was right there, sitting there for them, and they chose to change things up behind the bench. And look, Blake and I have had a bit of a debate on this. Like, I do think this gets them ahead for next season. I think structure and identity and understanding what the coach wants and what the coach doesn't want matters. I think there's a distinction between this late season run and other late season runs.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a case for that, I think, for sure. I mean, obviously, you're still going to have turnover in the roster. There's still things you want to fix, but sure, if you want to look at sort of deployment and how you can play these guys and what you can actually do. I mean, I know there's a lot of criticism for them playing Quinn Hughes as much as they're playing him, and some of that's because of the injury to Ekman-Larsson. Part of me goes, listen, he's playing, like I think I said last week, he's 9th in the league in average minutes, right? Like, that's a number one defenseman. That's how much a number one defenseman plays.
Who is Hughes?
Hughes, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So there's sort of, at a certain level, you got to find out at some point he can do it. If he's going to be your guy and he's playing so well, how do you not do it? And I think if their sort of plan is next year to play one of him or Hronek on the ice almost all the time, which is kind of my guess here, you got to figure out if you can do that, I guess.
What do you know of the OEL injury?
Well, I mean, it was, I think, as we saw, he sprained his ankle. It is interesting that, when I asked Tocchet last week, he said, no, he basically is like, I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah.
And OEL himself had said essentially on the radio that he thought he was coming back. So
does this have long-term potential, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think more about how his, it was obvious that his knee was bothering him earlier in the year. I don't think there was a functional issue, but I certainly think there was bruising or something.
Mm-hmm.
You could just see there were certain ways he'd jam it, and you could just tell it was throbbing, and he's in his 30s, and your knees, aren't designed to last forever, certainly not at a high level. And if there's already been damage, and he had meniscus surgery in 2019 on his right knee, which was the one that's been bothering him. I think in general, I think there's a lot of concern for him because it's been a tough season physically for him, and he is going in the wrong direction, and you don't become more mobile as you get into your 30s, even if you're not getting hurt.
Switching gears here, you guys wrote about Pride Night and the upcoming Pride Night Friday for the Vancouver Canucks against the Calgary Flames, and there's been further reporting today with regards to whether the players are going to wear the Pride sweaters in warm-up.
Yeah, my impression is that they are. They haven't said anything. The only thing they've said, and I did follow up on the weekend, and the message was the same, that we will announce our plans close to the date. So, it's Tuesday and the game's on Friday. Obviously they have a game in St. Louis tonight, so tomorrow.
You'd think. If they don't announce it tomorrow, it's weird.
It's weird.
In this market of all markets, you'd think you'd stand on the highest of mountains and cheer this on.
And they have, and that's the thing is that they've been leaders in this, and it's been really important. It's a community, both specifically when we talk about LGBTQ plus and in the broader sense. This is a thing that's part of our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the inclusiveness and diversity initiatives that the Canucks. The Canucks have been pushing for stuff in the past. So it would stand out. That's part of it, is that there shouldn't be any reluctance. This is one of those ones. I thought in the end, I'm not always on board with Brian Burke, but I thought Berkey did a really good job on Hockey Night in Canada. Obviously it's a very personal thing with his late son. But he's been a real advocate for inclusion, for diversity initiatives, for Pride, and standing up and saying no, that this is a positive thing. Like, there's a lot of good things happening here. Let's not forget that. And then expressing disappointment that anyone would say, "Oh, I don't want to wear that." Like, what? And it's been very few who have done so, and I guess you're allowed to have your reasons. If I had been the San Jose Sharks, I wouldn't have given James Reimer the platform. I would simply have said he's not playing, and I think, Lyubushkin didn't dress, so that was kind of left at that. And there you go, and you kind of get your guys on board. And Connor McDavid, to his credit, again, also speaking out. A lot of guys speaking out. Matthew Tkachuk, like, guys saying this is why we're doing it, which is very important. And so it's kind of weird. Like, the Canucks, it's not that, they've been good at this. Some of it may be that there's been so much turnover behind the scenes of personnel that there's just not as much sort of organizational capital, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Which is unbelievable in and of itself.
But, it's the playbook's there. It's like they've done this so well.
Yeah. Use the stencil from years gone by. Easy. Yeah.
So, and as I think we've seen, I mean, I wrote my story last week, and I talked to a guy who knows Putin's Russia very well, and he goes, I don't think the government really cares. It might be about the families. Families might be putting pressure on their players, and that's something, I guess. And as Burke said, listen, if there is tangible threats, the NHL hasn't heard any, and I certainly haven't heard any, then okay, you can appreciate that. But, what are we talking about here?
And Bill Daly's come out and said there's no material threats. So, all the teams that have erred on that side are just flat out wrong. There was an incredible story last week from this Hockey and Society blog, which is locally curated, which involved a Russian-speaking journalist, and pointed out it's the equivalent of a misdemeanor in Russia. With fines up to $2,500, and usually to organizations, not to individuals, let alone individuals a half a world away. So,
I mean, we forget, in Sochi, ahead of Sochi, there was a big push then from Putin and his cronies to put pressure on athletes about, no Russian athletes are going to be talking about this kind of thing. And you're
like yesterday, Putin was threatening nuclear war. You think they're going to come after NHL hockey players for a pride sweater? I mean, it's just...
they'll nuke Rogers Arena.
Yeah, exactly. The stakes are a little bit higher over there right now to be worrying about this business. John Garrett stepping aside as color commentator. Who do you want in the gig? Who do you think will get the gig?
I think my impression is the field is wide open, having talked to sort of several people over there, and I think
a lot of the retired players now that are in and around the club, I feel are pretty homebody kind of. I don't know that they want to go on the road. Everybody's saying Yannick Hansen. I think Yannick's really enjoying being a dad. Yeah, I don't think he wants to go on the road.
No, I don't think it's anybody like that. There is a commitment involved.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if there is an opportunity here to do something different. I am curious. Maybe could it be a former female player? That's something I wonder about.
I think they'd want somebody with a connection to the market.
You'd think so.
And Megan Augusta's pretty removed from it.
And I don't. I mean, she's a cop.
She's got a career.
I have a feeling it's going to end up being an unexpected, something you can't necessarily predict.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have a feeling. Yes, obviously there are a few guys around. I mean, but in the end, it's a travel job, and it's not a conventional job. And if you're an ex-player, and you have young kids, you're probably
you just came home to them after years of being on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a story on Sergei Gonchar this week, and I talked to him last week, and that was part of the reason why he structured his job the way he is. He's coming in for 2 weeks at a time, kind of thing. And it's a job that couldn't exist without technology, right? He can coach from afar because he can do video notes and send these things, and has a relationship with these guys, and then he's there in person to teach. But that he literally said part of it is he wants to be home. His kids, he was away so much. His son is finishing high school, and his daughter's at SMU. He's she's 5 minutes away. I just want to be around. I want to be there for my kids, and anybody who's got younger kids, it's even more so. So
can I just step in here though, guys? How much longer do you think these crews will be traveling? Broadcast crews.
The Sharks are back on the road, but remember the Sharks were doing their stuff from home, and that wasn't just a COVID choice, and there were a few other crews doing
TV2.
Yeah, the TV guys were. Yeah, and then I can't remember. I mean, I was sort of poking around on this. I certainly think with this one, I think they're going to continue to travel because, I mean, let's be honest. Certainly, I'm sure the Canucks would like them to continue to pay for the seat on the plane because they do. But I think my impression is it's still, because there's still value in live sport. That's the one thing that remains. Everything else is turned over. You guys may have noticed, but live sport remains a thing that draws in
For marquee teams like Canadian teams, I think it's pretty safe on the TV side. The Columbus TV crew, I'm not too certain about them, but the Canadian TV crews, I think, are pretty safe.
Guys, this week there are cuts at ESPN, there are cuts at NFL Network and NFL.com.
Oh yeah, sure.
The Rogers national TV deal gets more expensive year by year. We all know the score with Bell Media. This is an easy cost savings for them. I'm sure the Canucks would like them to continue paying for the seat on the plane. I'm just not sure the media companies are going to want to continue to pay for the seats on the plane and the hotel rooms and the meals and everything that goes along with traveling broadcast crew, particularly when there are models and precedents. You should know this, Blake Price.
It's an inferior product, right? Like, I mean,
off of monitors.
It's. I was going to say, which topic do you guys know personally? Should we compare this to? You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's a travesty for the business, but yeah.
Well, and it's like here we are on the weekend. Like Jack Rathbone is back out of nowhere, and this is probably it. You know. Mm-hmm. But there was no one there. Like, my company's not paying for travel right now. Athletic and Sportsnet haven't been traveling their guys really very much lately. I don't know what their reasons are. I can't speak to ours. I know ours is 100% about cost, which is frustrating. And I think our readers get a disservice out of it. That's my
and make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it, Patrick. The Canucks frickin' love it. They love that they exist under. No, they do. They do. They shouldn't, but they do. They love that they don't have to answer to anybody on the road, that they don't have to answer the tough questions. The Canucks frickin' love it.
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, they've actually, honestly, this season, as weird as everything has been at home, they've actually been really good to deal with on the road. I haven't been able to square it. Like, it's been so strange. But, yes, you're right. In the end,
it's limited access, though. When it's limited, of course they're gracious.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yet that's their preference. But I think, in the end, the big picture is that the more you get talked about, no matter what is, the better it is for you. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that would tell you otherwise. And
the biggest league in the world is the National Football League, and they welcome all comers. You want a package? Sure, you can have a rights package to everybody. You want access? Everybody gets to talk about the NFL. Yeah. Nope, not the Vancouver Canucks.
And the NBA, guys. Like, the NBA has 2 pregame availabilities. They have one in the morning. They have one just before the game.
Yeah.
They get it. And they get all talking points. I mean, you want to talk about, 2 organizations that get a lot of negative chatter, like, holy smokes. And yet, obviously there's always going to be pushback. That's part of the game. I think we know that on this side, that there's going to be frustrations with stories and that kind of thing. But welcome to the real world. Things happen.
And that's the cost of getting your team and players talked about at large, right? You get this massive free promotion and publicity arm that you don't control, but still feeds back into your product. So, anyways, a few new guys I want to ask you about here. Aidan McDonough, what did you make of his debut?
I mean, it kind of is. I mean, he's got an NHL body, and
is that measured? Is that true?
He's tall. Yeah, he's a big, tall kid.
Not working this.
He's Sekeresian in his size, Matthew.
Oh, God.
In his height, anyway.
Let's hope he's 50 pounds
height
lighter.
And shoulders. I mean, we're gonna see. I'm sure he'll get a few more games here, and in the end, it's not just can he do it? Can he actually do it in a way that separates himself from every other guy that's in the mix? He'd be wise to see the lesson that Dakota Joshua has, taught every player trying to make the NHL, that you just got to do a couple things really well, skate in straight lines, get on the puck, have nice hands around that. We know McDonough's got nice hands around the net. But it's getting on the puck and doing it, effectively. And, that's what you need to be watching for, not even this year, but, as he makes his transition to professional hockey next year, that's what we need to see. And you'll know pretty quick, I think, given his age and everything, you'll know pretty quick.
I got to say, I think Filip Hronek can make a pretty significant difference here. Yes. Just because, to some degree, I think we've forgotten what it's like to have 2 legit top 4 defensemen in the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that stood out to me, watching him last week, he brings the puck up in a different way than Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes is a darty. He actually tends to come up on the left. Hronek, it's kind of amazing because, when I looked, I was trying to figure out, first of all, what his shoulder injury or if there was a clip of what had happened to him. And I never found it. But what I did find, of course, was him getting crushed by Ryan Reeves in December there. But he was skating the puck up the middle, and that's how he brings the puck up the ice. That is just his instinct. And it's a fascinating wrinkle and different thing. And that's part of what the Canucks didn't have. They had nothing, it wasn't just that they only had Hughes to carry the puck up. It was they had no difference. Like, there was nothing different about how they would attack the escape route, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Which is good.
Variety is good.
It's a good thing to have them on different pairings then, perhaps, too, so that you have two different looks.
I have a hard time seeing that because they're both guys that want the puck.
Yeah.
It's part of why it's not just that having two defensemen on your first power play is totally insane. It's just like these guys are Hronek is a power play weapon, but he's not a weapon. He's not a shooter in the way that any of your forwards are. That's the reality. You may want to go on and on. Oh, you got a bomb from the outside. It doesn't matter. Like, that's not how goals are scored.
And you have wingers for days. So
yeah. And the reality is that like the numbers are there. 4 forward, 1D setups are just score way more often than 3-2. Nobody does 3-2 anymore. In fact, the discussion, as many people pointed out to me, you should be almost moving towards 5 forwards than 2 defensemen. So, anyway, but I think there's only so much puck to go around. So if you're putting them on a pairing together, it just seems like it's a misdistribution of your skills. Like you should have, like I said, I think it makes sense to have both of them playing 26 minutes a night, and neither of them almost never on the ice together. That they're both, basically one or the other guys on the ice, and you've got a puck control defenseman the whole game. And that will change the face of how this team looks next year. That's absolutely, he's going to be huge. I mean, I think he should. If he's not huge, then the Canucks are in big problems.
Yeah.
Marvelous stuff, my friend. Thank you for this. You have a great week. We'll catch up next Tuesday.
Take care, guys.